Aaron Torres, enjoying the pre-vacation leading up to it. How are you, man? Welcome into the game in T-Town.
I'm good, Ryan. You're right. I leave a week from today. I will be on vacation. I'm pretty much checked out for the next week. But, there's work to be done. I'm trying to, like Nick Saban, stay focused on the task at hand, not look too far ahead. Just trying to make it through this week.
Now, the true reason to go to the Big Island is to investigate where Tua Tagovailoa is from there, right? I mean, is it that going to be part of the responsibility?
Yeah. I mean, if Tua's parents are fans of the show, I know they live in Alabama now, but if they're fans of the show and they want to reach out with any suggestions or any places I can go to get a home cooked meal or watch some Tua highlight tapes or whatever, tell the Tagovailoas to send that information my way. I would love to go see where he came from, where greatness originated, where the person who was robbed of last year's Heisman Trophy grew up. I want to see all of it, Ryan Fowler. So send their information my way.
All right, and I'll see what I can find out. But it's called Eva Beach. It's spelled E.
A lot of beaches over there, Ryan. A lot of beaches.
Oh, a lot of beaches? Okay, well, I was going to see if you could, if you recognize it, you could take a photo. I mean, I wanted Aaron Torres, standing in front of, the sign that says Eva Beach and say, hey, I'm here, I made it.
It's Eva, E-V-A?
No, it's E-W-A. For some reason, it's pronounced Eva, but I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I mean, it's E-W-A Beach.
Okay, let's take a look. It's city and county of Honolulu. I'll be there. I'll see what I can do.
You got
to
go do it, man. Yeah, you got to go do it. I mean, and I mean, make up something, find a place to eat and just say, listen, we're going over to investigate, but really you're going over to. I mean, because if you claim that
they got good shrimp tacos over here, 45 minutes from where we're staying. We got to go check them out. One of those.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because if you say it's for work, then it, you know what I'm talking about. You get it's not supposed to be a work trip. It's supposed to be leisure. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the photo I tagged you in on Twitter? What'd you think?
I feel like you've recycled that one from the glory, from previous this time of year. It is still funny, though. Every time I see it, I laugh. For people who are listening who can't get to social media, Ryan has tagged me in a picture with the Three Stooges all wearing gear of the that other school in the other part of the state of Alabama, those tractor drivers in Auburn. So I don't know if this is really well photoshopped or what the deal is, Ryan, but every time you tag this, I always crack up when I see it.
No, and listen, and I always have a lot of fun with it on social networks, and I forgot this year. I mean, I'm letting the Alabama faithful down. I put it up a week late, because normally what I do is I put it out on the first day of Auburn's practice, and I say this is exclusive photos of Auburn's first practice, but I'm slipping. I'm sliding down a little bit.
Well, you know what I think it is, Ryan, is this. I remember, I don't know if it was last season or 2, 3, 4 seasons ago, I said, Ryan, there's a team that Alabama plays, what is it, the third weekend of October every year. And, I've been on this show long enough to know that you like poking fun at the tractor drivers at Auburn, at Georgia, where they're still watching their Herschel Walker VHS tapes to relive their limited moment in the sun. And I said to you, Ryan, I said, how come you never pick on Tennessee? I said, I thought Tennessee was supposed to be Alabama's big rival. And what you said to me was, Tennessee has been so bad for so long that I actually feel bad picking on them. I actually feel bad being mean to them. And I think that's where you're getting with Auburn. I mean, this is now, year 7 of the Malzahn era. Basically, he's, coach 8-5. Let's be perfectly honest. He had a good run the first year, and then a few years ago, he had another good run that got him a big extension. But for the most part, he's coach 8-5. And so I think what's happening now is in your advanced age, you're becoming a more sympathetic guy. And I think you're starting to feel sorry for those guys in the other part of the state. Am I crazy?
Well, I'm in a sort of kind of weird way, I'm pulling for these guys. I'm really pulling for Auburn this year.
Okay.
Hey, you mean tell you why? Well, because we need them to keep Gus, and we need to give just enough wins where that bubble that you cannot fire a guy. Like, you,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like, you want to keep the guy. So if you get to 7 or 8 wins, then maybe they won't pull the plug on the Gus tenure in Auburn. So I'm kind of pulling for these guys.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, I would ask you, it's wild because, I don't know how closely you've looked at their schedule. They've got a brutal schedule. I believe six of their 12 opponents were in the top 20 of the coaches poll. I actually think we're in the top 15. I think Oregon might have been like 16. But yeah, it's going to be really tough. And, maybe the big buyout will save them. It's funny, right? Because it's a big conversation where I live here in Los Angeles is what is it going to take for Clay Helton at USC to keep his job? And I think everyone kind of says, well, even if he goes, 7-5 or 8-4, if it's the wrong 7 wins or the wrong 8 wins and you lose a couple games really badly, it doesn't really inspire the fan base to bring you back. And so I wonder the same with Gus Malzahn. I mean, it's one thing if you beat Ole Miss and you beat, Arkansas and schools like that. But, I'm thinking you got to go 8-4 and upset one of the big boys, upset at Georgia. They play Florida this year and LSU, and I think they're playing at LSU, and historically they've been terrible there. So I don't know what it's going to be, but I think it could get ugly for him. I think 8 wins, even 8 wins, is going to be tough for that team with the schedule that they have.
All right, you live out on the West Coast. Do you think Oregon has a chance? I mean, do you give Mario Cristobal and the Ducks any chance in Arlington, Texas, to beat Auburn that first game coming up in about 17 days?
I mean, I give them a chance because I don't think we know what to expect from the Auburn offense. I mean, we're talking about a quarterback that's basically never played at the college level, be it a true freshman, be it a redshirt freshman. Maybe they'll play both. Gus Malzahn going back to calling plays. I know it worked in the bowl game last year, but generally that's a sign of a coach that's desperate, and desperation doesn't usually work out well. Like the thing with Auburn that's so interesting is they're really good at some position groups, Ryan. And I know, I'm not supposed to say nice things. When I signed the contract to come on this show, I'm not allowed to say nice things about Auburn. But they have a really strong defensive front. They return all their guys up front on the offensive line. They got a couple skill position guys. And so in theory, they shouldn't be terrible. But it all comes down to quarterback play. It all comes down to if they can get production from that. I would lean Oregon. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think Auburn can get the win. But here's the thing. The win just quiets, the masses for a week or two before the meat of the SEC play starts. And then when you talk about the fact that their crossover games in the SEC this year are Georgia and Florida, they have to go to LSU, where historically I just referenced they're really bad. They have Alabama and Georgia, 2 of maybe the 5 best teams in the country in the last couple of weeks. Yes, they're at home, but the Plains doesn't scare this Nick Saban coach team. I think even if they beat Oregon, I do still think it's going to be tough for them to come up with the requisite 8, 9, whatever it is, wins for Gus Malzahn to keep that job.
All right, so going back to USC. In your opinion, is Clay Helton on the hottest seat in college football, or is it Gus?
I think, people in your neck of the woods would be surprised. USC, first of all, USC's fan base is as delusional as anybody's. They had a good run under Pete Carroll, obviously. People forget, though, Pete Carroll was the 6th, 7th choice there. And what's really interesting about USC, they just hired a new school president, and I know I'm getting kind of in the weeds and boring here, but a lot of people think that this school president's going to fire their athletic director, who's Lynn Swann. The FBI, the basketball program was under FBI, problems similar to Auburn. That admissions scandal heavily involved USC and the athletic programs there. And so the question becomes, if you fire the AD midseason and Clay Helton does reasonably well, do you somehow keep him around? Because I just think it's going to be really hard to go get an elite coach if you don't have an AD in place by late November, early December. So what's crazy about USC, there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes that people don't realize. I mean, I think everyone just kind of has penciled Urban Meyer into that spot, but there's a lot of stuff that has to happen at USC. I would say I would say Clay Helton's seat is actually a little tiny bit hotter than Gus Malzahn's, in part because of that what do you call it, the buyout. But listen, I mean, if anything, it's 1-1A. Both of those guys know that they need to win and win big to keep their jobs.
All right, so let me ask you. Let me tell you. I'm going to be honest here. Why we really care about USC? Okay, not because Aaron Torres lives just a few miles away from the campus.
You guys play him soon, right?
No, what we do in 2020. But there's a guy by the name of Bryce Young. They're in Santa Ana, California, who is a major quarterback recruit. He's committed to USC. So if it hits the wall, Alabama's number two. And Sark is recruiting him here. One of the top dual threat quarterbacks in the country, number 2 overall. He's looking at the University of Alabama. He's looking at it close. So we're kind of pulling for things to go south there at USC where, he'll look at the University of Alabama and he'll pull the switch and he'll say, hey, forget about USC. Forget about Southern California. I'm going to roll with the tide, baby.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan, this is a big conversation in Southern California right now is you look across the board. I mean, USC, even in their lowest moments on the field, they were always really successful in recruiting.
Why is this? Why are they this bad, though?
Well, honestly, Ryan, I'll be perfectly honest. As far as look, 2 years ago they won the Pac-12. They played in the Cotton Bowl. The year before they went to the Rose Bowl. I think listen, I told you, USC fans are delusional, 1. 2, you look at last year, okay, and there's never an excuse for USC to go 5-7, especially in the state of the Pac-12. But you look at that team, their last 3 games, they were leading at halftime and fell apart. And what I really think happened was they were super young. They were playing a true freshman at quarterback. Their whole team was all their skill position guys are basically freshmen and sophomores. And so I just think they were a young team that didn't know how to close out games. And, if you flip those 3 games, they're now 8-5, or I guess it would be 4 instead of 7-5. And by the way, one of those games was against Notre Dame, who made the college football playoff. Last game of the regular season, USC led Notre Dame at halftime. And so I'm just saying, even if you win 2 of those, you go 7-5, you go to a bowl game, people feel good. You have 3 games to end the season where you're winning at halftime and you can't close them out. It just led to a lot of last-second losses and a lot of frustration within the fan base. But to me, I don't think they're that far off. The problem is, Ryan, I'll say this. For all the talk about who has the toughest schedule in the SEC, is it Texas A&M, is it Auburn, whatever, USC has no cakewalk to open their season. They play in the first 5 weeks. They play Fresno State at home, who won 12 games last year. They play Stanford. They play at Washington, who's good. They play Utah at home, who's actually pretty good this year, top 15 team. BYU on the road. Then they get a bye and go to Notre Dame. And so you go 3-3 over those first 3, or over those first 6. Clay Helton's going to be out before Halloween. And so it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch. I actually think the talent is better than people realize. I think they should be improved. But you know the sport, Ryan. You lose 1 game coming into a make-or-break year. Everybody loses confidence. An off-season's worth of work goes down the drain. You lose some momentum. I think it's going to be fascinating to see. And I'll tell you what, as it pertains to your specific question, I would not be surprised if there's a coaching change middle of the season and that kid's potentially back on the market looking to recommit or to at least open up his recruitment.
And USC, 61st in the country, national ranking right now in recruiting. 61st. Yeah. 61st in the country, USC in recruiting rankings. You can't win like that, my brother. You can't win like that.
What I was going to say real quick, one, there's a really talented quarterback who's committed to that school up in South Carolina. I won't name them, the one that you guys played in January. But you look at the recruiting rankings, most of the best players in Southern California are committed elsewhere. And so this is a huge storyline in Southern California right now is, like I was saying a minute ago, say what you want about USC. They've always recruited at an elite level. Now they're not even recruiting. They had major drop-off last year. This year they're way behind the 8 ball. Oregon has really kind of planted their flag in Southern California. Washington has. Now you have the Alabamas, the Ohio States, and Clemson coming in and taking the players that they want. I think all of this leads to one thing. There's not one specific reason why Clay Helton's seat is so hot. It is several different things, all of these included, which is why I think his hot seat, believe it or not, is even a slightly bit hotter than Gus Malzahn.
All right, Torres, final question. We appreciate you out on the front lines of defending Alabama's schedule, man. You laid it out there pretty good, man. I mean, solid tweet coming from Aaron Torres, at Aaron_Torres, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah, so real quick, I'm obviously, as I get ready to go on vacation, I'm just doing my prep work. And, I start with where the big boys play. I started my SEC prep work a few months ago, whatever, Memorial Day, when all the magazines start coming out. And I'm kind of making my way to the minor leagues of college football. So I did, the Pac-12 the other day. I did the ACC. I was looking at Miami's schedule today, Ryan. Everyone talks about, Alabama doesn't play anybody. They have such a soft schedule. Miami has 9 games in the state of Florida. People say, Alabama hasn't traveled north of whatever, for an out-of-conference game and whenever. Here's the bottom line. Alabama's playing at Texas A&M. Alabama's playing at Auburn. They got LSU. They got, whoever, Mississippi State, whoever. Miami of Florida has 9 games in the state of Florida. Ironically, one of their games not in Florida is actually at Duke, which, of course, is who Alabama is going to pummel coming into the season. But yeah, I just found that amazing. We spend so much time crushing Alabama. Historically, they've done their best to really schedule up all that stuff and schedule marquee opponents in the preseason or in the out of conference. Obviously, it didn't happen this year. I think they're running out of teams to play. But this idea that everyone else in college football is playing such a more challenging schedule than Alabama is just laughable.
Aaron Torres, from all of us here in T-Town, I hope you enjoy your vacation. I hope it's relaxing. I hope it's recharging. I hope you have fun. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. Make sure you take plenty of photos, and we'll connect with you in a couple of weeks. And the next time we talk to you, it'll be the week of college football, real college football, getting underway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen, I'll shoot you a phone call from UE Beach or whatever it's called, and can't wait to talk to you. You have a fun vacation too, Ryan. I don't know where you're headed, but I hope you have a great vacation as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to get away for a couple of days. I mean, this Alabama team's too good. There's no questions about it. It's just we're going to kick everybody by 60.
That's what you said. You said you had to take a vacation because there was no need to watch them practice anymore.
No, they're too good. They're too good. Connect with Aaron Torres on the Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. Connect with him on Twitter at Aaron_Torres. Have an awesome vacation, man. Thank you, sir.
You as well, Ryan. Thanks, man.